Now, the class of 2016 selected one of its own to address you today. Greg Agron is a graduate of Dartmouth College. He served in the United States Marine Corps, is a member of the King Hall Veterans Association. Greg also is active in the Federal Bar Association and the negotiations team. He worked for the Sacramento County Superior Court. He also worked in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Los Angeles and the Yolo County District Attorney's Office. After graduation, he will take a position in the Ventura County District Attorney's Office. And more than that, Greg is a dedicated husband and father. Please join me in welcoming Greg Agron.
Aw, come on, you don't mean that. Thank you, Dean Johnson. Everybody hear me okay? Good? Thank you, Dean Johnson, and thank you everyone who clapped who has no idea who I am. I think you're all pretty cool too. I struggled to find something to say today that would be worth everyone's time, that could express the pride I feel at being a part of this class. But then I realized most of you have been drinking since 9 a.m. And the rest of you can't really leave because they've shut the doors, and you're probably designated drivers. So I'm just gonna say whatever the hell I want. And I could crack predictable jokes about some Mondays being Fridays. I could complain that this one school has 11 different websites that I still don't know how to use. Or why my tuition bill was 5 pages long when a text message saying you're screwed would have been just fine. It's true. But I asked a lot of my classmates what they thought I should say, and uniformly they told me to speak my heart. So that's what I'm gonna do. It was Mother's Day last week, and I thought, you know, I never knew my dad. He died when I was a little kid, and a very strong woman raised me instead. And probably not by coincidence, I convinced a very strong and patient woman to marry me, a woman who's raising my daughter by her own mother's example. So my mind drifted to moms and to parents, and parents are actually pretty important legally. Oh, it's true, it's true. Listen, they give you your first laws. Like, don't put that in your mouth. And don't bite your sister. Which, if you think about it, is kind of the same law. So parents are pretty important. Some of you are parents. So I'm going to commit the ultimate cliche of commencement speaking, and I'm going to tell a story about a parent that puts the last 3 years in perspective for me and speaks my heart. And it's just a story. I'm not offering it for the truth of the matter asserted, if you're paying attention, or for faith, or for anyone but myself. But that said, there's a story in the New Testament, in the Gospels of Mark and Matthew, about a Greek woman, a Syrophoenician foreigner, who comes up to Jesus one day, and she gets on her knees, and she begs him to help her sick daughter who's dying at home. And Jesus says no. He ignores her at first, and then he says no, and he says he won't help her because to help a foreigner, to use his power for that, would be like a father taking food from children and giving it to the dogs. So the mother replies, "Yes, Lord, but even dogs eat the scraps that the children drop under the table." If you have kids at home and dogs, you know that's true, and usually isn't an accident. And I like to think maybe Jesus knew it too. And maybe he thought of his own mom at that moment, because he immediately reverses himself. He changes his mind and tells her to go home, that your daughter's been healed. You can take that however you want, or not at all. But I look at it like this. First, I think it's good lawyering. That mom has the courage to invoke compassion in the court of an ostensibly living God, to an ultimate power, and the guts to appeal a bad ruling, an oral argument, by throwing his own words back at him, by throwing his own logic back at him. If she can speak the truth of her suffering to that power, a parent's truth, then no one here should ever be scared or timid about arguing their position or advocating against injustice to a fellow mortal. Second, especially these days, if those two can look at each other as just a mom and a son, can look past their differences and listen to each other, then so can we. Maybe we can understand that even if someone is different or a Republican, or like a Democrat or something, or believes something that you don't, or says something you find offensive, that's not a good enough reason to scorn and hate them. I can promise you it is a far, far lovelier endeavor to resolve our problems with words and in ink than with bullets and in blood. Lastly, I take from that story that power in the absence of compassion is not power at all. It's just cruelty by virtue of negligent indifference. And I think that's important for those of us in robes. We're picking up a piece of paper today, but in so doing, we storm the gates to a kingdom, and we seize the power to shape the world to come as we see fit. It doesn't really matter where we go from here because that power will follow. And with that power comes the duty to earn it anew every single day. A duty to exercise that power with a quantum of empathy and humility and love. Because I, for one, owe the privilege of that power not just to my work and my effort, but to so many others that got me here. To my wife, to my mom who's standing right here videotaping me, No pressure, though. To all the people that call me son, to my friends, my mentors and professors, and to all those who came before me, who crossed continents and oceans as free people and as slaves, who broke shackles and scaled walls, who survived horrific conflict and persecution, who were slain in holocausts and genocides, who worked tirelessly and marched and still march, who protested and struggled and dreamed. People who endured and endured and endured, not to subjugate or to oppress, but to safeguard just the chance that we might realize the awesome potential of the quintessential human birthright that is our freedom. All of it. Every last day of it. So that we could stand right here, right now. So I leave King Hall today, but I refuse to let King Hall leave me. I vow to ask each day that I am beyond these gates, what difference have I made with this power? What have I done to earn the premise and pride of this place and of its people, who I will miss so very goddamn much? Thank you.